Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dan. I'm here with my WBG Week 6 match. Week 6 and Week 7, I found out I had some audio issues, and it wasn't really up to standard, so I'm doing some post-recording to just at double speed to try to get through the match, not talk about anything in the dead zone, and we're going to be doing our best to recall what was going on this week as we talk through it. So this week we were up against Brent, who is the last undefeated coach. We had a pretty interesting matchup. Walking Wake with the AV looked really good into a lot of what he could do. And Terra Water let us really punish defensive Incineroar sets. It would still let us get good damage on Goldango with Flamethrower, and it would also guarantee KOs on some bulkier Landorus sets. So that's what we went with this week. The Torkoal's obviously very good in this match as well, because we needed to activate the Photosynthesis special attack on the Walking Wake, and Brute Bonnet seems like a solid addition to the matchup as well. So right away we see we have a Goldango League, and I believe it was Terra Steel, which means a Flamethrower is pretty free into that slot, or I could Snarl if I'm going to call some switch outs, but I think I can just Flamethrower, and I get the guaranteed KO even if it's an incredibly bulky Goldango if I put in the Torkoal with this kind of matchup. He could obviously very easily fake out here, but I still think I want to put the pressure on. Torkoal lets the sun come up, and then with the Torkoal switch in and this being Terra Water, even a Make It Rain doesn't scare me all that much. But we do see right away that it is a trick, which gave its choice specs to the Torkoal, which I am completely okay with. It can get a free switch out with the eject pack now, but Flamethrower into that slot seems pretty free, and then I get to click Eruption, which even though it is a chance that the Torkoal could get hit, choice specs Eruption in the sun is really going to hurt, and I don't think he's actually got very easy time targeting into the Torkoal. So the Incineroar stays in Departing Shot it. Basically this moves Torkoal down to what it would normally be with choice specs, but at -1, and I get a full power sun boosted Eruption that's going to go straight on into this Latios. Latios is going to resist it, but this is still going to hit it with a decent chunk. Latios is now pretty clearly in range of a bunch of different things, and the Landorus comes on out. I'm going to Snarl here because I assume there's going to be a defensive Terra of some kind, which will let me reduce the attack on both of them, and then Brute Bonnet comes in, and Brute Bonnet actually looks really good in this matchup in front of this kind of setup. So Brute Bonnet gets its boosted attack, and then I'm going to be able to Snarl. Now Snarl will likely reveal that I am Assault Vest, as I've only run Snarl on non-Assault Vest sets pretty infrequently, maybe once or twice this season. And we do see the Tear Poison, which is what the Hydro Steam want to guarantee the KO there, and then the Tailwind comes up. So there is going to be some speed issues, and then the Sandsear Storm does a lot of damage, but the Snarl does so much to that Latios, and with the reduced special attack, some of the Brute Bonnet's looking pretty safe. And Latios could even survive the Sandsear Storm now that Landorus is at -1. And Hydro Steam could potentially KO, and Sucker Punch into Latios will guarantee me that I only have to survive the Sandsear Storm, because that Latios can't attack this turn. The Sludge Bomb instead comes out, which targets into the Brute Bonnet. Brute Bonnet goes down. It did its job, because now I get to use a Sun-boosted Hydro Steam, and yeah, that crit probably didn't matter at that point. But we are in very solid position overall. He's got the Torkoal still, or the Incineroar still in the back, and I've still got my Lilycoal options, so I really don't care about this Intimidate all that much. I just get the Hydro Steam, and I actually go for the Sleep Powder instead of the Close Combat because I wanted to see if it was safety goggles, because I figured that would be important for me to figure out later, and it is, so I get some good information at the end of Game 1. So in Game 2, I decide to go with something decently similar as well. The Walking Wake again seems very prevalent. I do go with the Screamtail as its partner on the lead this time instead of the Brute Bonnet. Wanted to get a little change up to potentially affect the non-Goldango leads, because Screamtail's got a really bad matchup into Goldango, but it's really good into the rest of his team. And we're going to try to get the Latios or the Walking Wake online again. So against this lead, during the match, I just kept saying to myself, he's going to fake out Terra Grass, Ivy Cudgel, the Walking Wake, which I do survive, but I really just almost want to switch to Torkoal here. Like, I think about the Torkoal switch the whole time, but eventually I talk myself into thinking that that play is too obvious, so he won't go for that super obvious play. And because that's obvious, he might fake out the Screamtail instead. and then give himself some setup time. So I just go for an offensive play. Instead, that Rock Tomb was probably bad. I just took too much time on the match. And he does go for the Terra Grass, which I will survive even if it's the play that seems very obvious, and he does go for the obvious play. So he goes for the obvious play. I get punished hard with that critical hit because he actually needed that crit for that kill to happen, and now I'm in a very bad position. So Torkoal comes on out. Screamtail's speed is heightened. I'm going to be outspeeding that Ogerpon again. I can hit it with an overheat, and I do just want to encore this fake out, which might give me a little bit of a chance here. So Instant switches out, Latios comes on in, and I'm going to have a hard time killing this Latios. Spiky Shield comes out, so I do have the opportunity to encore the Spiky Shield now, but Torkoal's not really in position to do too much here. So I can encore the Spiky Shield, but Latios should just hit this Torkoal. So Spiky Shield comes out, it fails, and Latios does go for the Draco Meteor and just cleanly picks up the Torkoal. So that's pretty well special attack invested. And then there's a DC. I determined that in that position with the Ligand in the back, I didn't actually have a way to kill Latios, so I forfeited the game from that point. DC was probably on my end as well, which seemed fair in retrospect. So in game 3, I know I'm going to have some issues with that Ogerpon, so I just go with the Gouging Fire to have something to threaten it more directly. Again, the Brute Bonnet could have been a decent bring again, but it just seems pretty weak in front of Incineroar leads, which he's been going for the whole game, but my Clear Amulet, I'm completely fine with that. So I'm a fan of this lead. I have a bunch of options here. I could Burning Bulwark if I'm going to assume the fake out there. Walking Wake seems like it could be a target for a double up again, because he can probably assume that I am Assault Vest at this point. So swapping into Torkoal to set Sun and probably go down to Draco Meteor is one thing that I could have done. I do go with the Lilligant switch, actually. I guess I was more willing to sacrifice that. Fake Out does go there, and Tailwind comes up. So I could have just gone for a huge attack with the Walking Wake, and that could have been okay, but again, I called the Fake Out there. And now I have to decide what do I want to do with this Lilligant. I could leave it in and go for a Sleep Powder on the Latios, or Close Combat into the Instant slot if I put Torkoal in the other slot. And Sleep Powdering this Latios does make a lot of sense to me. Under Tailwind, it might be faster than me because I'm not the most invested, which it is, and it just straight up kills the Torkoal, which we sort of expected. But now this Latios is pretty crippled, and this Incineroar is not in the greatest position. It does switch out. If there was a Flare Blitz there, I could have been in real trouble at that point. So it's probably almost a perfect play on his end, but I get bailed out just a little bit. So trying to determine what he has in the back, Goldango makes sense. I don't think that he would have Palafin, but the Ogerpon is the reason we have the Gouging Fire, and now that the Latios is weaker, I know I've got the threat of Heat Crash. I could also just go for a Breaking Swipe, and Breaking Swipe seems better here. I pretty much expect a Spiky Shield, but I don't really have anything better to do with the Lilligant, and he does just switch back in the Incineroar again. So Lilligant is very weak now. Latios stays asleep, and I get a Close Combat off. Obviously, it's not doing that much. And I get a Breaking Swipe, so the Incineroar's attack is down, and Latios' attack is down. Here, I just go for the Burning Bulwark, because I'm calling the Fake Out again, which I think a Breaking Swipe might have been better here, played a bit more aggressively. But I am going to do that, and the Fake Out does go into the Lilligant. So the Breaking Swipe could have been the play there. Yeah, definitely would have been the play now in retrospect, but we're still not in a horrible position. Tailwind is gone. My Walking Wake is in, and I've got double Photosynthesis boosted Mons. So I've just got to figure out a way to get through his 4 Pokemon with my 2. But it's not an impossible situation. So here I'm calling a switch, and the switch doesn't happen, but it doesn't really matter because I should still get this KO on the Incineroar without letting it get a parting shot out. So now we've got a 2v2 in a very interesting situation, because the Ogerpon can only KO one of these Pokemon with a crit. the Landorus can always carry out the Gouging Fire, but I'm faster. So my play here, I think, is I could potentially call an attack, one of the attacks from the Landorus, and I could call a Protect on the Ogre Pawn, or I could go into the Landorus here. So the only way this play loses, because I should Oko the Landorus here, is if this Ogre Pawn crits me. If this Ogre Pawn crits me, I lose this match if it goes into the blocking leg here. But if it connects with, but if I'm able to get my double connect, I win this match. Ivy Cudgel comes on out, goes into the blocking leg, and picks up the crit, which will seal the match for him, because even though I am able to heat crash it, I don't have anything that can one-shot this Landorus, and my defensive terror there was the incorrect choice because he did end up going for the Sludge Bomb. Wouldn't have mattered, I couldn't have killed it anyway. But yeah, pretty interesting set. Lost a close one to Bread there, but felt pretty good about it overall. But I will be back next week with week number 7, so thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!